よし。始まった？始まったかな？多分。データなし。なんでなんで？まあいいや。なんでデータなしなの？いや、遅れてるよ。遅れてるよ。OK。日本語。確認。プレイしたことがありますか？ない。ある。ない。一応、あるようでない。ない。いいえ。パソコンがギリギリ見えるぐらいのスライダーで調節してください。ギリギリ見える？ギリギリ見える。よし。確認。前回の時刻？前回、今の時刻は、2時46分。46分。2時46分。はい。アクセシビリティメニューは OK します。セッティングを始める。おー、すごい。これはセッティング、ビデオ、垂直時計、オーダーです。いや、フルスクリーンだわ。で、160個出る？ 100Hz ぐらいにしとく。出るかな？まあ別に何でもいいや。アンチエイジングクオリティはこうでいいかな。あ、全然設置できてなかった。解像度適用。ダメって言われた。ダメって言われた。ダメって言われた。いけた。あ、なんかおかしいな。なんかおかしい。まあ、OK。じゃあこれでやっていきましょうか。165Hz。はい。まあ、ゲーム始めます。まあそもそも、
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
これはストーリーというの。どこ？物語。
Stanley worked for a
Stanley
company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
え、出ていた。あ、で、これでもう動けるわけね。まあ、要するにね、このゲームはこのナレーションの通りに、まあ、行ってもいいんだけど、行かなくてもいいみたいな、そんなゲームだね。ちょっと感度高いな。感度が高いし、感度多分3、2、ワンチャン2でもいい。OK。うん。あ、ちょっと、ごめん。全くもってね、よし。何も来ていないと。で特に何もないと。コーヒー。コーヒーで後ついちゃってる。別にそんなもんか。まあ、出てみるか。1時間近く、まあ9時か。そうだな、9時出勤かな。出てきました。で、ここが427番で。429と428も一部屋。個室であると。ここは入れない。入れない。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
会議室へ向かった？いや、本当にこんなさ、誰か、そもそも出勤するとき気づかないかな？
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
痕跡ない、ジャンプもできない。ジャンプができない。で、ないな。てか、真っ白すぎない？外見えないんだけど。いないな。なんか光ってはいるんだよな。てか、フロッピーとか使ってる時代なのか。A ドライブとかね。この先何なん？この先何？この先何なん？なんもないじゃん。普通机とか置いてあるもんね。で、ここに来いという話かな。マグカップ落ちてる。誰だ？もったいない。絶対上から誰か行ってる。で、こっちか。で、46でまた対話でもしてたんかな。本当に一瞬にして誰もがいなくなったみたいな。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
左に入りました。左に入ったか。いや、ちょっと天の弱だからちょっと右行きます。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
いやー、そんなんね、知らんけども。本当にこういう、てか、広気でこの会社、今んとこ階段上がってないよね。ちょっと入りたくないな。
Yes, truly a
roomそうです。この部屋本当に褒め立たれる感じだ。
It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
で、これ、自販機。なんか古いな。1.25 ドル。1.25 ドルやって。
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
てか最近暑くなってきたからさ、あれじゃ。ごめん、Windows キー押した。
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
服脱ごうぜ。よし、OK。はい。 てかエンコードが高負荷ですって一瞬出たけど、
But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room
素晴ら
and
しい
took
発
the
見。
first open door on his left to
最
get
初の
back
ドア
to
の
business.
左を選びました。これか。なんか嫌だな。なんか嫌だ。こっちがいいや。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't
スター
5
リーを
years
したこと
ago.
が平坦に何でもクビにならなかったことが不思議だって。いや、そりゃそうだな。こんなね、天の弱だったらちょっと。これさ、なんか落ちれそうだけど。ああ
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley.
Good job.
Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
死んだ。死んだんだけど。死んだんだけど。最初から嘘でしょ
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
もう行くぞ。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
もう行
memo.
くぞ行くぞ。行くぞ行くぞ。ちょっとあの先気になる。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room,
Oh,
and
이거
Stanley knew it
446.
perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the
446
employee
でこ
lounge
でこの
first,
先
just to admire it.
思い立ったので、この先行きます。
Yes,
Wow,
this
so-
room.
This room.
Eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
もうここ行くじゃん。で、さっき死んだんだよね。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
死んだんだよね。あ、なんかやべえって書いてある。これ乗るのあ、
Look,
乗るんだ
Stanley,。I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
それもしかした
I'm
ら
not your enemy,
私
really.
はあなたとできないです。本当に違うん
I
です。
realize that investing in your
Yeah,
trust in
no,
someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you.
よし
Really?
よし、いけ
I
た。
was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it.
いいで
Let
す
me
か私を
prove that
あな
I'm
たに証
on
明
your
出してください。
side.
チャンスをください。
Give me a
いやいやいやいや
chance.
いやちょっとチャンスなの何なのかんな知らんがな。ちょっと僕は僕の自由に行きたいとこに行くんだからね。ちょっとなんか命名法則変わった？なんか 2B の4とか 2B の5になった。
Now listen carefully, this is important.
よく聞いてね。これは大事な
Stanley
ことです。
walked
さらに赤
through
を
the red door.
赤と青か。資本と競争。赤だな。これは
Oh,
赤だわ。
thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think, well, I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
めっちゃ。おー、入るぞー。暗い。暗い。
What do we want? What are we looking for?
嘘でしょ壁、なんか映ってる。あれなんかある。これは何？めちゃめちゃ黒い部屋にめっちゃしんどい棒があって。
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel
幸せだと思う。
I actually feel happy.
バカにしてんのか。こんなね、見れたところでっていうね。いや、別にいいです。どうでもいいで
No,
す。
wait. Where are you going?
知らないです。そんな、とてもいい。
Oh, no. Stay away from those stairs.
Ay,
If you hurt
가리그소.
yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
行くぞ。そんな知るか。
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
何これ。
Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
何これ。 ああ、ここが最後なんだ。へえ、さよなら。
No!
あ、まだ生きてる。
Oh, thank God you lived.
あ、オッケー
You
オッ
had me worried there.
Okay.
No. No,
Okay, okay.
no, what are you
Okay, okay.
doing, Stanley?
Okay, okay.
Please, I'm
Okay,
asking
okay.
you not to
Iku zo.
take this away from me.
Iku zo.
I can't go back to what I was before.
どうで、
If
どう
you
なんでしょ
die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
あ、通れる、通れないならもう行くしかないでしょ。ほら、さよなら。あら、
Stanley,
まだ
let's go back to the other room. Can you
い
do
や
that for
まだ
me?
まだ死なないのか。
My God.
いや、本当だよ。
Is
本
this
当に
really how much you dislike my game?
いやい
That
や、
you'll
この
throw
ゲーム
yourself from this
楽しいよ。
platform over and over to be
も
rid
う
of
すで
it?
に面白いよ。
You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from
本当
being
私はその
happy.
店を殺すことになり
Am
ま
I
すか。
reading the
今見
situation
てますか
correctly?
あ、いや、ただの好奇心だよ。ただの好奇心だよ。あ、まだ死なない
Maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know
何もわからない
anymore.
です。
I just
あ、移動
wanted
速度
us
遅
to
くなって
get
る。
along. But I guess that was too much to ask.
だから
It
それは無理
looks
です。
like you
もう
wanted to make a
仲良くなり
choice
たかっただ
after
け。
all. Well, this one is yours.
え、これ出たらどうなの？
Do you actually want to stay alive? Or are you just
それとも
teasing
私
me?
をからかっているのでしょうか。もうちょっとだけ夢見せようかな。おー、綺麗だね。綺麗だね。
I wanted us to be happy here, Stanley. I
こ
really
れ本
did.
当は幸せになりた
I
いです。
wish
まだ間
I
に合うと
still
願ってい
thought
ます。
that was possible.
いや、そんなどうでもいいんだよ。ちょっと、なんて反応するかね、気になった。これちゃんと移動速度遅くなるの面白いな。いやー、やっぱり階段で登るしかないでしょ。いやー、いろいろね、できることが多いならね、やるしかないでしょ。これもだって、ただ最初に戻るだけだもんね。ただ走っていけばいいだけだもんね。うん、ならいいや。まだリカバリー効く。ありがとうございました。終わりですか？
It's going to restart, isn't it?
リスタートしますよね。
I'm going back.
戻ります。強制的に戻された。行くぞ。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
っていうゲームです
Stanley
ね。
decided
簡
to
単に
go
言
to
う
the
と。
meeting
うん
room.
面白いよ
Perhaps
ね。
he had simply
面
missed
白
a
いと思
memo.
う。よし。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the
これ
meeting
あれだか
room,
ら、
and Stanley knew
命
it
令通りに
perfectly
行ったらどうな
well.
るんだろう。
Perhaps he wanted to
そのまま
stop
終わ
by
る
the
のか
employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art.
へー
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
死ぬこと以外できなくなるから。
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong
Oh,
foot
oh,
here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
いや
I realize that
どうなの
investing in your
いけるのかな
trust in someone
いけないの
else
かな
can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting,
わかん
Stanley.
ないな。まあとりあえず
Someone
聞い
you've
てみるか
forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not
yeah,
asking
yeah.
for me, I'm asking for... This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem
え
yourself.
知らん、チャ
To
ンスなん
put
て。
your work aside. To let her back into your life.
知らんな。
She's been waiting.
彼女って誰だ？何？電
That's
話
her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this.
出ない。
To reach out.
出た。え ?427。どこだよ、ここ。
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go.
歩けない。
All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your
Gotcha.
いやいや。
Oh,
違う。
come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
うぜえ。なんだお前。
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
すべてのボタンを押すボタン。J。
Look at him there,
まさに
pushing
言われたらボール
buttons,
それだから
doing
から見てください。
exactly what he's told to do.
そう
Now he's pushing a button. Now he's
今
eating
ランチを食べて
lunch. Now
家に
he's
帰りま
going
す。仕事に戻り
home.
ます。
Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
V を押してください。
But in his mind, in his mind, he can go on
Ah.
fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he
そして彼が
returned
仕
to
事に
work
戻る日
was
々
a
がそんな
reminder
こと
that
を
none of
一
it
個
would
の人
ever
から
happen
思い
to
知らせる
him.
のでした。本当に
And
聞か
so
され
he
てるけ
began
ど
to fantasize
いや
about
彼
his own job.
彼は自分の仕事を空
First, he
想だ。
imagined that one day
彼は
while
その
at
空
work,
想にし
he
ました。
stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought
彼はひどく興奮し
excited
ました。
him terribly.
これさ、J とか L とか押したらなんか変わるかな？変わらんわ。
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer.
ちょっと待ってね。一応、声反応してるのか。なら、まあ、いいか。いや、反応しないのかと。びっくりした。よし。次。本当にどうでもいいな、僕にとって、この、あれは。よし。やるぞ。OBM がこっちに来ちゃった。しかもなんか消えてねえし。よし、消して、下げて、やるか。はい。はい。ゲームを再開する。
As long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself.
寝させるを寝させるなら。
He won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
朝から出勤するために F を押してください。いや、もう出勤したくないです。もういいです。なんだろう。もう、時計見てるだけでもうなんか幸せかな。何を言ってるんだ。若干テクストショックと違うんだよな。これ出勤するために F を押してくださいって言ってるけどさ、なんか数分とか数十分待ち続けたらなんか変わるんかな。なんかそういうのありそうだよね。どうなんだろう。わかんないや。まあ、ただ、多分大丈夫だと思う。F を押してくださいだ。F? はい。押してあげよう。
Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
何も質問しないために N を押す。いや、Y を押すよ。くそ。
I suppose I can't. Not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley.
私は本物の
We're not so
私たちの
different,
ため
I
に全て
suppose.
違うわけじゃないの。
I'll try once more to convey
もう
all
一度
this
この
to
全てを
him.
管理する。
I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps.
お
Well,
そらく、
maybe
今
this
回
time
は
we'll
多分彼が
see.
分かってくるでしょう。今度こそ。
Maybe this time. And I tried again.
死んでください
Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
あ。いや、死んでくださいは違うでしょ。そうはならないでしょ。また最初からちょっと。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
これクリックすると。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
あ、開けられるのこれ。開けられるんだ。
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference.
でも少しも変わらないし、消し物が発展しませんでした。クソね。もう、なんだろう。右でちょっとやり残してやることがないか。
He entered the door on his left.
あれ
This was not the correct way to the meeting room,
開けろ
and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
開けろデロイ
Perhaps
ト
he
警
wanted
察
to
だ
stop by the employee lounge first,
デ
just
ロ
to
開け
admire
ろ
it.
警察だとりあえずそれはいいんだよ
Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time understood true happiness. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
左のドアなんか嫌だ
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
さっきあそこ行くと
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the
なんかあ
wrong
そこから
foot
出
here.
られそうじゃね
I'm not your enemy,
気のせい
really, I'm not.
気のせいだ
I
と思うな
realize that
なんか
investing
出
your
られそうだ
trust
よ
in
ね
someone else
出よ
can
う
be
とするし
difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about... Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is
赤行っ
important.
て良くなかったんだ
Stanley
っ
walked
け
through the red door.
青行ってみるかあ青赤どっちでさっき赤行ったから青行ってみるか
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red
いや
door.
赤です赤です僕が赤って言ってるんです赤です
I still don't think we're communicating properly.
Eh?
Stanley walked through the red door.
青後ろに青がある
All right, fine, go ahead,
いいぞいい
Stanley.
ぞどうぞ
You
スタイ
want to
ル
know so badly
そうじゃない
what's
か知
out
りたいんです
there?
か
You want to find out what lies at the end of
いや
this
知りたいわ
road
さそ
and
りゃ
chosen world? Don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some
とりあえず
feedback.
活かせる新しいデザイン
There we
びっ
go.
くり
A
した
third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
いやここにちょっと惹かれるじゃん
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell
新しい
me
バージョンに
about
使
your
ってください
experience with this new version. Would you say that the
選択肢のメ
game
リットは感じ
benefited
まし
from
たか
allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest.
率直な聞き
I'm
さ
looking
確かに
for
現
some
実が
real
悲観的
critical
に持て
feedback
るんです
here.
でも選択肢増えるってのは面白いから僕は5だと思うね
Aha! You see, I knew I was onto something. Where do these flashes of inspiration
この
come
開きはどっ
from?
からやってくるの
How
か
did I
なぜこ
know
の
the
ゲームを
game
大事なの
needed
とは
a
必要だと
third
してい
door?
たのか
Well,
まあ
it's
ほぼ本能で
instinct
すよね
mostly,
私の
a
内側
calling
の
in
声
your
がする
gut. I really couldn't
このア
say
イデア
where
はど
the
こから
idea
が来たと
came
いう
from
わ
except
け
that
じゃ
I
ないんですよ魂がそう感じ
felt
た
it in
と
my
いう以外には
soul. You can't teach that,
ここには
Stanley.
教えられないよ
Don't
スタイ
even
ルやめておいた
try.
方がいい
Here,
こ
based
こであ
on
な
the
たのゲー
data
ムの
from
プレ
your
ビューを先
previous
に新しい
playthrough,
元
I've
に
compiled a
新
new
しいバージョンを
version.
作成しま
And
し
to be
たそ
perfectly
して
candid, I think
場外
I've
本部連
knocked
携
it
の
out
申し
of the
訳なく
park
完
with
璧
this
にで
one.
きたと思ってま
Let's
す
take
で
a
は見
look.
てみましょうびっくりしたなんかさ若干さ RTAよえ ?2 秒ここ違うでしょ。ちょっとこっちに行って、
Now, would you say that competitive
ただ
leaderboard
対戦リ
helped
ズ
you
ムの
feel
モチベー
motivated
ショ
to
ンに
keep
役立ったと言え
walking
るでしょう
through
か。
doors? Again,
いや、そっちをく
honest
ださい。お願い
answers,
します。
please.
いや、ちょっと RTA はやってみたいなと思ったよ
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on,
新しいゲームの
and
作品
now would be a lovely
なんか次に
opportunity
これ
to give it some
これ機械でしょ。
playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let
いい
me
ね。起
boot
動
it
させてみ
up.
ましょう。え何
In this game, the baby crawls left towards
このゲームは赤ちゃ
danger.
ん危険な方で
You
入り
click
ま
the
す。
button
あなた
to
がボタンを
move
クリッ
back
クす
to
る
the
と赤ちゃん
right,
は右に戻
and
り
if
ま
he
す。
reaches
そ
the
してもし
fire,
赤ちゃんが
you
火のところまで
fail.
行ってしまったら
It's
失
a
敗
very
です。
meaningful
これは家庭
game, all
家
about
庭
the
生活の
desperation
絶望
and
と終わり
tedium
な
of
き
endlessly
と体育館を
confronting
消
the
費者非常に
demands
興味
of
深いゲームで
family
す。
life. I think
これ
the
は本当
art
にアート
world
界が
will
ざわつく
really
と思い
take
ますよ。
notice. But of course, the
し
message
かし
of
も
the
ちろん
game
このメッセー
only
ジは明
becomes
らかにす
clear
るのは
once you've been playing
ゲー
it
ムを
for
始めて
about
4時間ぐ
4
らいしか
hours.
です。
So why don't you
で
give
すので
it
本当
4
かどう
hours
か
of
4時間プ
play
レイして
to
確
make
かめて
sure
きて
it's
ほしい。いかがで
effective?
しょうか。
Be sure to keep notes
あな
on
た
your
の関心をメモしておくの
experience.
を忘れてくださいね。待っギリギリギリギリよし、オッケーギリギリギリギリはいギリギリおいギリギリギリギリもうちょいいけるもうちょいいけるオッケーオッケーオッケーオッケーオッケーオッケーオッケーもうちょいいけるオッケーオッケーオッケーいけるいけるいけるいけるいけるいけるオッケーオッケーオッケーオッケーオッケーもうちょいもうちょいいけるもうちょいもうちょいもうちょいもうちょいもうちょいもうちょいオッケーもうちょいよしじゃあもうちょいでいけるってことだなはいよし飽きたわ
You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try.
私は試さない気づかない。
I'm out.
もうやだ
I'm
帰る。やってらんない。
It's
もう終わり
over.
です。
Thank you for
プ
playing.
レイしていただ
Your
きありがとうござい
input
ます。あ
was
なたの
extremely
貢献な
valuable.
非
Oh,
常に
hey,
役に
since my
立ち
game
ま
was
した。
so
あ、そうだ、
awful,
私の
why
人
don't we
だ
play
け
someone
ど、
else's
普通やら
game?
れても誰か
Just
プ
to
レイ
ease
を
the
しましょう
pain.
よ。
Let's see.
見てみましょう。何
What
かあ
do
っ
we
たっけ
have
な。
here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
ローディング。あれ
Aha! Fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation?
思いますかまあ、あ
Well,
な
it
たが
seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man, spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for
おそ
some
らくあ
sort
な
of
たのある
twisted
種
erotic
の歪んだ
purpose.
性域のために。
Yes, that must
そう
be
に
it.
違いない。
What a fascinating
完璧な
venture
精
into the
神不足
experience
を
of
経験するの
total
はなんて
mental
魅力的な暴
depravity.
言なのでしょ
So
う。
far, I
今の
love
ところ私は全
everything
てこの
about this
あ
game,
の全てこの
Stanley.
あ
And it
全てこ
seems
の
there's
ゲームの
even
全てが
more.
好きですよ。しかももっとあるはずです。
Come, let's venture outward and
進
see
んで
what
他
else
に何
is
かある
out
か見てみ
there.
ましょうよ。今さ、ごめん。すんごいどうでもいいけどさ。えめっちゃめちゃさ、マイク裏のドアだったよな。このゲームはなんだえプロパンガス LP ガスか LP プロパンまあいいやどっちも同じか大体よし
Oh no.
あダメだ
No,
ダ
no,
メ
no,
だ
no, it
そ
can't
それは
be.
無理何えおーこういうゲームやりたいよねなんかこういうとこでさサバイバルっていうの
It's an open world game.
それはそれ
Good
オープンゲー
God,
ム
quickly
早く
block
封
it
鎖して
off.
え
Thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into that
こういうあれの中に
thing.
あれの
That big open,
大
just
大き
wandering
なオー
around.
プン
No
の
right
正
or
解も
wrong
間違いなく
directions.
ただ
No
ただ
path to follow. You can
進
just
むべき
go
道じゃない
in
ただ
any...
どこへでも
Oh,
ああ
thank
よかっ
heavens
た
we
避けられ
avoided
て
it.
何がだよ
We're out of the woods now, Stanley.
これを抜けましょう、
Okay,
よし、
I'm
こ
going
こ
to
から
get
出
us
るぞ
out of。here.
他のゲームを探
Let's
そう
find。another
え
game. Preferably
結構この世界観好きなんだけど。
something with nice, big,
え、
insurmountable
君らのゲー
walls.
ム超えられないか。
Okay,
これ
I
戦いんじ
think this will be just the thing.
え、何
Wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in
僕もま
mind.
さに考えてる
Just a
んです。
nice
あなたが
big
走り回るの
box
に
for
ちょうどい
you
い
to
大きさ
run
の箱
around
で
in.
す。
There isn't any possibility that
こ
you
れな
could
ら
get
迷子に
lost
なりよう
here.
がない。
Now this
それこそ
is
ゲームデ
game
ザインってやつで
design.
す。
Stanley,
スタン
if
リ
you
ー、あなた
manage
が
to
も
get
しこの
lost
ゲ
in
ー
this
ムを
game,
何とかして
I
迷
will
子に
be
なるようなことがあれば、
phenomenally
私は驚く
impressed.
ほど心を打たれるでしょう。え？何ここ？
Okay, so what
そ
exactly
れ
do
ど
we
こ
do
で
here?
なのか見て
Let's
みましょう。
see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's
これ
no
これ
racetrack.
ここ
Okay, I'm seeing that there's a
これ
ball
大
of
きな
some
ボールみ
kind
たいな
back
こ
here.
と。
Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun.
なんて
We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have
ボール
fun.
で楽しむ。これどっかで見たことあるな。あれだよね。なんか車でサッカーするやつだよね。車でサッカーするやつだよ
Are
ね。
you doing it? Are you winning? Is this
やってる
fun?
勝ってる
Is
楽
it
しい
better than my miserable
合ってんの
little
か
story that I worked so hard on? Stanley, I have
あ
a
ー、ちょ
thought.
っと待っ
And I
て。
realize I'm not a
あ、てか、
sportsologist,
移動速度速っ。
but if one ball generates a
One
certain
ball,
amount of
ball,
raw
ball,
adrenal pleasure,
ちょっと
then
難しい。
surely multiple balls makes for an even more euphoric sports experience. I'm going to try it out. Here comes another ball.
あー、どこ行く
Oh
の？
goodness, that really
あー、
does
素晴らしい。
feel
これ本当にすごい
amazing,
です
doesn't
ね
it?
もう一個でなの？
Stanley, I'm like a child in a confectionery shop. I simply have to have more. I'm
シンプルにもっ
insatiable.
と欲しくなる。飽きない。
More balls.
ごめん、まだ一個もボールに入れられてないんだよ。ゴールに。今なら入る！今なら入る！入る！オッケー！入った！
Fun.
入っ
Is
た？
this a real video game?
え？入ってよ。
Well, I sure hope you're
Hold on.
having a good time because guess what?
ちょっと聞い
It's
て終了
over.
です。え？
That's right. Your little fun comes to an end. This is my. Hold on. What
え？
are you
あれ
doing?
落ちれる？落ちれる？え？なになに？
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me?
私なしでストーリーを書くなんてそんなことできるから、下に戻ってきて、またたくさんある。お、いなくなった、うるせえやつだ。とりあえず、ここは、よくわかんねえステージの下ってことだな。つまりは。なるほどね。え、落ちた。え、暗い。見えない。えどこ？えなんかさっきのオフィスみたいなとこ来たな。なんか、荒廃してる？もういいや、とりあえず進んでみるけども。さっきのとこかなここ。同じだよね、多分。進んできた同じだね。そんなことある？ちょっと驚きなんだけど、こんなに拡張性が高いか、このゲーム。面白いな。何あれ？いてる。何あれ？てかめっちゃキーボード打つと。なんかテクスチャ雑だな。で、やっと光がある。で、その奥は何なんだろう。なんか、鏡？他になんかあるの？落第？消え
I
た。
wonder what he found.
彼は一体何を
If
見つ
what
け
he
ただろう。
wanted was to
も
be the
し彼
leading
が
man
彼
in
自
his
身
own
の
story,
物
well,
語の主
perhaps
人
he's
公だっ
gotten
た。
it.
彼は今どこに
Down
いる
in
のか彼氏だった。
wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy
彼
with
は
his choice.
自分の選択に満足
And
し
if
てい
he's
るか。
learned the
そし
heavy
てそれを
cost
伴う
that
大きな
comes
代
with
償を知
it.
ったのでしょう。
He'll understand soon
彼が
what I
伝え
was
ようとした
trying
こと
to
を彼
tell him.
はもうすぐ理解するで
He
し
needs
ょう。彼には私は
Someone
必
who
要
will
だと。
wrap
カオ
everything
ス、
up at
恐
the
怖、
end
そして混
to
乱を
make
理解し、
sense
最終
out
的
of the
に全てを包み
chaos
込
and
む
the
誰
fear
か
and
が
the。confusion. That's who I
それが
am.
私なんです。
That
そ
is
れこ
what
そ
I
が
mean to
この
this
世界においての
world.
私なんです
Oh,。yes.
そう
Yes,
さ、
I'll be
私は戻ってき
back.
ます
There's
と
no
も、
other
それ以外
way.
道はありません。
Once this ends,
これが終わったら
after it
全
all
てが終わっ
comes
たら
to a
また戻ってき
close,
ます。
then I'll be back. The end will be
終わった
here
らすぐ
soon.
そこに。終わったらすぐです。本当
Very
すぐそこです。
I can wait.
持ちましょう。終わりになったらか。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
ちゃんとちょっとやって
Stanley
みるか。
decided to go to the
ちゃ
meeting
んと
room.
指示に全部
Perhaps
繋
he
が
had
ってみよう、
simply
今回は
missed。a memo.
ちょっと不安になった。一瞬で。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
左に来た。で、何ここ
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
これ何やってんだろう。何の会社なんだろう。てかそもそもボタンを押すだけでさ、給料もらえるってさ、どういうシステムなんだろう。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
下行って何があるの？なんか赤いよ。まあいいや、一回上行こうか。ちょっと赤いから気になるよ。眩しいな。こっちも赤いか。エクスパットルーム。ああ、トイレね。青いね、トイレ。赤は後半。上司はこんないいとこでさ、あれしててさ、なんか、風刺画かな。赤い栗をぶっ殺すみたいな風刺画かな。なんだろう。資本主義の鬼？違う。合ってるか。合ってると思うけどな。そうだね。でも赤色のネクタイ。ああ、そっか。赤い国が今世界を牛耳ってますよみたいな感じで、赤い国殺そうぜって言ってんのかな。多分そうだね。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Eh? どこに入力しろって。あ、ここか。2845。
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons,
適当に押し当てました。
Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened
新しく
passageway.
引かれた。うわー、なんだこれ、もう、こっち？あ、これ工場用のライトじゃん。楽しそうね。何これ？面白い。こっちはいけなさそうだね。こっちかな。下？エレベーター。なんか古いな、エレベーターが。ローディング。
Descending deeper into the
頼む
building,
の奥室の下に
Stanley
は少し奇妙
realized
な
he felt a
感じ
bit
がすることに気づ
peculiar.
きました。
It was a
そ
stirring
れは
of
胸の中で
emotion in
感
his
情を揺さぶり
chest,
ました。
as though he felt more
まる
free
で
to
彼は
think
彼
for
自身
himself,
の意見
to
を持ち、己
question the nature of
の
his
仕事
job.
の本質を
Why
問う
did
こと
he
の自
feel
由
this
なんたらかんたら
now,
だ。
when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
あ、上に行けるんだ。上に行こうかな。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that
マイン
read
ドコント
Mind
ロール施設
Control
とかが大きな
Facility.
ことがます。マインドコントロールのところってほんとなんか不穏な空気しかないんだけど。な、これ。すごい。こっち。気になるー。気になるー。こっち行くわ。 こっちの方が若干気になる。両方気になるけど。え、これ何？
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to
彼
find
にそれを
out?
知るだけの力があったな。なんだろうこれ。監視カメラのボタン。
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
なるほどね。こっちか。そんなことあってよろしいの？え？で、これ何？
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
え、どうやって書いてるの？この会社闇深いな。こんなもんあるんて。って関したら、この声もマインドコントロール。これ。5回 ?1、2、3、4、5。まあいいや。あのボタンなんだったの？英語読めないと面白くないな、このゲーム。
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
On!
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
Eh?
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that.
Eh?
I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is.
これボ
More
タン通りで
time
押す
to
んじゃない
talk
の
about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone.
うるせえな、黙れ。
Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you is rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
何をすればいいのこれは。
Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment.
Huh?
But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending. Just you being alone. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment of failure until the moment I say happily ever after.
バーン。え？え？え？え？
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again.
なんかね、
When Stanley...
リフレッシュレートが高くて寄ってきた。やっぱ僕、リフレッシュレート低くていいんだ。60Hz。はい。どうですか？
came to a set of two open doors. He entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
だって従ったらアトミックボムで爆
But
破され
Stanley
て
just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had
なんか
vanished.
コーヒー落ちて
His
る。
boss would think he was crazy.
あれなんかループしてね。
And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too, surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
I am okay.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
それで真っ黒になりました。え
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
マエリア誰だよ
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
ええまあ、今日は、1時間ぐらいやったと思うので、終わろうと思います。というか、普通に酔った。酔った。酔ったんで、今日はこの辺にしておきたいと思います。じゃあまた、首も出るしね。また、いつか会いましょう。はい。いつか、また不定期で配信すると思うんで、よかったらまたチャンネル登録して待っててください。はい。いろんなことね、やりたいんですよ。はい。じゃあね、また。元気でいらしてください。元気でいらしてください。で、終わります。ありがとうございました。ね。急に終わるけどね。